Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is starting to reject from this major area of resistance as the price of Bitcoin is now retesting this previous line of resistance to possibly flip it into new support, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside the price of Solana, which is still retesting this previous area of support here in the short term, while the price of Chainlink is still playing out this bullish divergence on the daily time frame. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the 4-day Bitcoin price chart, and right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red on this time frame right here, so not much has changed on this chart over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, looking at the weekly Bitcoin MACD, obviously, as I've said in recent weeks here on the channel, we've basically seen a decline in the amount of bearish momentum, so we're not necessarily looking as bearish right now compared to roughly around a month ago. And so obviously, as I've been saying since basically the end of January, early February, I've been bearish on the price of Bitcoin after this bearish cross confirmed back then. And of course, since that point, we did indeed see bearish price action from that point as expected. But once again, just recently here on the channel, I've been talking about how this right now in the price of Bitcoin is looking very similar to what we saw back in around July 2024, at least based on the weekly Bitcoin MACD. So just keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously right now, we still have this massive bearish divergence to watch out for, telling us we should not be expecting any significant bullish momentum here on the larger timeframes. And of course, as I've been saying that ever since around the very beginning of this year, close to all-time highs, we've seen this play out exactly as I've been talking about. But of course, as I've also been saying, we can see the occasional short-term bullish move here and there, like a bounce from support or a slight bullish relief in the short term, just not necessarily a massive amount of bullish momentum towards the upside. And so that is still the situation on all of these larger time frames. Not much has changed over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, what has happened over the last one day is indeed a perfect rejection from this area of resistance, and that's sitting in between around 86,000 to 88,000. And obviously recently we saw an almost perfect bounce from very close to 74,000, which is also a support level that I've been talking about for weeks, if not months now on the channel. So at the moment we almost perfectly bounced from 74,000 around there. Obviously we played out a small short squeeze and of course a bullish relief due to other factors I'll talk about in just a moment. But now we've run into that 86k level, once again in between 86 to 88,000. That is the major resistance to watch out for, and the price of Bitcoin rejected from almost exactly 86,000. But obviously if you've been watching my channel even just for the last few days, let alone over the last few weeks, you would have already seen this actually coming, because I've been warning about over and over again here on the channel that we have a lot of resistance in between 86 to 88,000 that we cannot ignore, where the price will likely struggle at. And so that is still the situation here on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart. The support and resistance levels have not changed over the last one day. And in case you're new to the channel, if we were to actually break out above around 88,000 with confirmation, so candle closes confirming above 88,000, in that situation the next resistance to watch out for would be sitting at approximately 92,000, and above that I'll be watching around 96,000. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously over the last one day we officially confirmed that daily candle close in the price of Bitcoin above this descending line of resistance, which right now is still sitting at just underneath 84,000, close towards around 83,500. And so technically speaking, with this one daily candle close confirming above this descending line of resistance, that technically confirms the breakout above this resistance with at least one confirmation once again. But as of recording this video, obviously we're coming in for a retest to potentially flip previous resistance into new support, if of course we can actually bounce here. We need to see a bounce very soon from this level in order to actually maintain this breakout, because as always, if we were to see a confirmed break with a candle close back below this line of resistance, that would basically invalidate the breakout altogether, and at least in the short term that would be a bit of a bearish signal if we were to actually confirm a break with, for example, a daily candle close back below around 83,500, and especially back below around 83,000. But either way, whether we bounce from around 83,000 or whether we dip just slightly below 83,000, either way, we're technically still playing out this bullish divergence on the daily time frame, as I've been saying over the last half a week approximately, since this massive green candle right here, which technically confirmed the bullish divergence. And so once again, as I've been saying since then, we're most likely going to see a slight bullish relief, or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes from a bullish divergence. And usually a bullish divergence like this on the daily time frame plays out over a couple of weeks, give or take. And so for example, if we were to actually invalidate this breakout right here on this chart above this descending line of resistance, in that situation it is still possible we can play out this bullish divergence by, for example, playing out maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action like this, and then ultimately a little bit more of a bullish relief. That is still a possibility based on this bullish divergence, which is technically still active on the daily time frame. But as I always say, we cannot ignore other points of support and resistance where the price would likely struggle at, and that's exactly what has happened, as I've been warning about, at that 86k level. And if you want to actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on 2bit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example up to $50,000 in trading bonuses. Or if you're not one of these larger traders, you can get a $30 sign up bonus and also a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus. But remember, all of this is only available if you use the link below this video to 2bit. And on top of all of that, if you use the link below this video, you're automatically upgraded to VIP level 1 trading fees, which basically means you get a massive discount on trading fees. You get lowered trading fees over on 2bit, but remember, only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, that first or second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNex as another option out there that I also trade on, another exchange. And if you use the link below this video to BTNex, you can get an exclusive lifetime 10% discount on all trading fees over on BTNex, and that is a discount that lasts forever on your BTNex account. But remember, only if you use that link. And on top of that, BTNex is also a no KYC exchange as well. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and obviously over the last 1 to 2 days, we saw that small short squeeze as we wiped out a bunch of short positions at approximately 85,000, and we continued pushing a little bit higher until we got to that 86k level of resistance, which exactly is where I've been warning that the price will likely start to struggle at. And so once again, expect the price to struggle at 86,000 to 88,000, and so far it's exactly playing out as I've been talking about for days and weeks now on the channel. So nothing's really changed over the last 1 day, but technically speaking, we still have more liquidity towards the upside compared towards the downside, at least in the imminent short term. So right now we still have a decent amount of liquidity at just above 86,000, basically in between 86 to 87,000. And as for liquidity towards the downside, honestly, we don't have all too much, at least in the immediate short term here. And so that is still the situation right now. Honestly, not a lot has changed over the last 1 day. So getting straight into the price of Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and honestly, something similar can be said for Ethereum because nothing's really changed over the last 1 day. Technically speaking, we're still within a larger bear market, but we're still bouncing from significant support, sitting in between around 1.4k to 1550. And so I'll not be surprised if just in the short term, maybe for the next few days, maybe for another week, give or take, just in the short term, once again, we could perhaps chop around sideways a little bit, maybe play out a little bit more of a bounce from this support, especially if Bitcoin continues with a bounce here and a continued breakout. That can help the price of ETH in the short term, but ultimately, obviously, if Bitcoin actually breaks back towards the downside here in the short term, that would be bearish for Ethereum as well. So keep an eye on what Bitcoin is doing. But honestly, either way, whether we see a slight little bullish relief in the short term or whether we just see another dump in the short term, whatever happens in the short term, we're still within a larger bear market, a long-term bear market for Ethereum, as I've been saying for a long time now on the channel. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, right now the price of Solana is still currently retesting retesting this significant area of previous support, now acting as short-term resistance in between around 120 to 130. And at the time of recording this video, we're just about to see this weekly candle close confirm, and as of recording this video, we're still sitting just below 130, which means we may not end up seeing a confirmed breakout, at least on this weekly candle close right here above 130. And so in this situation, especially if we confirm the weekly candle close below 130, technically speaking, we can still find resistance within this area, which means there's still the possibility we could potentially see a rejection from this area. So just keep that in mind. We ultimately need to see a confirmed breakout with candle closes above 130 to actually confirm the breakout back above this area and start flipping a little bit more bullish again, at least in the short term. But obviously something that has been helping the price of Solana, at least in the shorter term once again, is of course this bullish divergence, which is still active on the daily time frame, as I've been saying since all the way back down here, telling you we're most likely going to see a short-term bullish relief, or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. So basically a break or a relief from all of the bearish price action, most likely for a couple of weeks, give or take. And so that is still actively playing out right now in the short term. But as always, even if a bullish divergence is playing out, we cannot ignore other points of resistance where the price can still potentially struggle at. And if we're looking at points of resistance here on the daily time frame, we do have a lot of resistance at around 135 to 137 based on these highs right here, and also a decent amount of resistance at around 144 to 145 approximately. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, technically speaking, XRP is still playing out this massive bearish divergence, as I've been saying for a long time now on the channel. So not much has changed on this XRP chart. And if we're taking a look at this 12-hour time frame, technically speaking, we're still within a bearish trend, or at least a shorter term bearish trend, forming lower highs and lower lows in a descending parallel channel here on the 12-hour time frame. But of course, during this bearish trend, we can see the occasional short-term bullish relief during the trend. And so technically speaking, just over the last half a week, give or take, that's exactly what we've seen play out. A bounce from this descending line of support, which is currently sitting at around $1.74 approximately. And we're currently running into an important level on the price chart and potentially starting to reject from this area, which is mainly sitting in between around 215 to actually around 220 if we're looking at the candle wick highs right here, but especially around 216 give or take. That's an important level. So especially if we confirm this candle close back below that level, that could be a bit of a short-term bearish signal to watch out for. And ultimately the next significant resistance towards the upside, once we actually see a continued move beyond these highs right here, is mainly sitting at around 248 approximately, and also at around 256 to 257. But remember, whether or not we see a short-term relief, a bounce in the short term, once again, technically speaking, the larger trend is still currently bearish, at least for now, while the larger bearish divergence is technically still playing out. So just keep that in mind. We're still a long way from potentially confirming a massive bullish trend reversal. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for Chainlink. Right now, we're still technically playing out the bullish divergence, telling us we're most likely going to see a bullish relief, or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And as always, considering it's on the daily time frame, this bullish divergence will likely play out over a period of a couple of weeks, give or take. And so obviously it's already been over half a week, closing in on 1 week for this bullish divergence actively playing out, which means there is a high probability it will continue to play out at least for another solid week, maybe longer, but at least for another solid week is what we'll likely see, most likely see for this bullish divergence. And at least for now, in the somewhat shorter term, the price of Chainlink is still struggling around this Fibonacci level, sitting at around 1270 to 1280, because obviously we saw that initial breakout above 1280 with a daily candle close, but now we've come in for a retest of that level, and at least so far, just in the short term, we're currently potentially failing that retest with a break back below 1270 to 1280. And so this is still showing us that we don't necessarily have a lot of bullish momentum in the short term, because once again, we're still within a larger bearish trend. As I've been saying for many months now on the channel, the larger trend is still bearish, especially for Chainlink, forming lower highs and lower lows. But during this larger bearish trend, we can see the occasional short-term bullish relief, mainly from bullish divergences playing out, and of course bounces from support. And so that is simply the current situation for the price of Chainlink, still actively playing out the bullish divergence, but technically still within a larger bearish trend. And these other levels of support and resistance have not changed over the last 1 day. And so once again, as always, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.